Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to untangle the really complex and frankly pretty surprising ecosystem of dollar store chains in America's most vulnerable neighborhoods. I mean, we've all seen them, right? Popping up on corner after corner. But the story behind their massive rise, their impact on local communities, and their recent struggles, it's absolutely fascinating. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this staggering figure right off the bat. 350. That is the number of Family Dollar stores that permanently closed their doors in just 10 months, between July 2025 and May 2026. If you break that down, that equates to roughly one store closing every single day for nearly a year. Imagine waking up to find your neighborhood's only retail option completely erased overnight. And we're not talking about temporary closures for remodeling here. We are talking about communities that literally found their local shelves stripped bare and the doors padlocked. To understand exactly how we got here, we're going to trace this whole retail life cycle across 6 steps today. Welcome to the food desert, the dollar store effect, inside the hazard zones, the Family Dollar collapse, surviving the retail desert, and finally, communities fighting back. Starting with part 1, welcome to the food desert, the pre-existing condition. We really have to look at the environment that allowed these stores to rapidly multiply in the first place. You've probably heard this term before. According to the USDA, millions of Americans currently live in these areas. In urban neighborhoods, it might mean living more than a mile from a supermarket and not having a car. In rural areas, it can mean driving over 10 miles just to find a fresh apple. Things like distance, socioeconomic constraints, and transportation struggles make finding fresh groceries incredibly difficult for these households. But the term desert kind of implies a barren, empty landscape, right? Which actually brings us to a slightly different concept. Here's a really fascinating twist. Researchers recently discovered that these swamps actually predict obesity rates even better than food deserts do. It turns out it's not just about what's missing, it's about what is overwhelmingly present. When a neighborhood is just packed with calorie-dense but nutrient-poor options, think fast food joints and corner stores. That highly processed food environment directly impacts long-term health risks. It's a completely different kind of hazard. And many advocates are quick to point out that this isn't just some geographical accident. Activists like Karen Washington use a different term, food apartheid. It's a powerful phrase, and they use it to describe how historical, discriminatory zoning and redlining systematically created these environments. It reframes the whole issue. We're no longer looking at it as a natural phenomenon, like a desert, but as a structural issue shaped by decades of very specific economic and policy choices. Which leads us to Section 2, the dollar store effect, the invasive species. Let's examine how this specific retail model rapidly takes root and alters the local economy. Check this out. Research from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance shows that in small towns, the arrival of a new dollar store typically slashes the sales of the single, locally owned supermarket by roughly 30%. Now, in a low-margin business like groceries, a 30% drop, that's fatal. It is very often enough to put that local grocer completely out of business, which completely removes the commercial anchor of the entire town. And this perfectly illustrates the mismatch. Dollar stores are honestly a poor substitute for full-service grocers. Sure, they might offer lower price points on single-serving packages, which absolutely makes them accessible for folks shopping paycheck to paycheck. But if you do the math, they are often way more expensive per ounce. Plus, while a local grocer keeps profits and dozens of jobs circulating right there in the community, dollar stores run on absolute skeleton crews. They extract that wealth straight back to corporate headquarters. So you might save a few cents today, but the long-term economic engine of the town is literally being vacuumed away. Moving to part 3, inside the hazard zones, the toxic environments. When we actually look at the working conditions inside some of these rapidly expanding stores, a much darker picture of their day-to-day operations emerges. Take Dollar General, for example. Their hyper-aggressive expansion led to some severe federal safety violations. Honestly, what shocked me most was reading about stores operating with dangerously blocked fire extinguishers, obstructed electrical panels, and these incredibly hazardous backrooms. We're talking about towering, haphazardly stacked merchandise that put employees at constant risk of severe injuries from falling items. Just an incredibly tough environment for the workers. Well, that indifference to safety finally caught up with them. In July 2024, Dollar General was hit with a massive $12 million OSHA fine. No small change. Because they were placed in OSHA's severe violator enforcement program, they are now forced to hire third-party auditors, drastically reduce their in-store inventory, and establish real employee safety committees. It was a huge, stark wake-up call for this whole aggressive operational model. All right, Section 4, the Family Dollar collapse, the sudden die-off. While Dollar General was facing safety fines amidst its explosive growth, its main rival experienced a totally catastrophic, systemic failure. Just look at this timeline. It maps out one of the most expensive retail failures in modern history. In 2015, Dollar Tree bought Family Dollar for a massive $8.5 billion. Fast forward a decade, after bleeding out billions in shareholder value, they dumped it to a private equity consortium for just $1 billion. And under the new ownership, the bleeding simply hasn't stopped. That's what led to those 350 recent closures we talked about right at the start of this explainer. So what drove this massive collapse? It boils down to complete strategic incompatibility. Think about it. Dollar Tree's model was built for suburban shoppers looking for a fun, recreational treasure hunt where everything was exactly $1. But Family Dollar, they were built for urban and rural necessity shopping using multiple price points. Dollar Tree tried to force its rigid, single-price logistics onto Family Dollar's highly complex neighborhood model. It just didn't work. They couldn't replicate the treasure hunt experience, the supply chain totally broke down, stores became cluttered and understocked, and customer satisfaction just plummeted. And here's the thing, this massive wave of store closures wasn't evenly spread out across the country. It heavily targeted the South and Appalachia. Arkansas lost nearly 14% of its stores. Alabama and Kentucky were right behind them. These are the exact regions where Family Dollar's community presence was historically the strongest. So this collapse effectively tore the remaining retail fabric right out of already vulnerable communities. Let's look at the fallout in Section 5, Surviving the Retail Desert, the Human Cost. We really need to zoom in on what happens to the people left behind when the only affordable store for miles suddenly locks its doors forever. Consumer experts call the aftermath cheap store creep. When a local Family Dollar closes, it's not like shoppers just magically start going to Whole Foods, right? They are forced into buying their basic household essentials at convenience stores or drugstores like CVS, where prices are drastically higher. This phenomenon quietly acts as a compounding tax on low-income families who simply cannot afford a Costco membership, or the bulk buying requirements of a Walmart pickup order, or even just the gas to drive multiple towns over. This brings those multi-billion-dollar private equity failures down to a devastating human reality. Just look at Spur, Texas. A store that opened in 2022 was completely gone by early 2026. Realistically, that meant 7 lost local jobs and a whole community rushing to buy whatever they could during a frantic liquidation sale right before being plunged into a newly minted discount retail desert. It's heartbreaking. But there is some hope. Section 6, Communities Fighting Back, Ecosystem Restoration. Despite this bleak landscape, municipalities and local advocates are not just sitting idly by as their neighborhoods are disrupted. The Institute for Local Self-Reliance actually recommends some very concrete municipal actions to fight back. Cities are now adopting formula business ordinances to cap chain density. They're implementing dispersal policies, like Tulsa, Oklahoma did, requiring new dollar stores to be at least 1 mile apart so they don't cluster in vulnerable areas. They're also strengthening their planning reviews to demand real economic impact criteria and using those tools to redirect incentives. The goal? To finance genuine, locally owned, fresh grocery stores that actually keep money inside the community. I want to leave you with this final thought today. The collapse of Family Dollar presents a really rare window of opportunity. The decisions being made by local zoning boards right now will determine how America eats for the next generation. Will they use this moment to build healthy, local food ecosystems, or will millions simply be left stranded in a retail desert? It's a massive question. Thanks for joining this explainer today, and keep questioning the systems that shape our world.